Hey everyone, and welcome back to Brian's Horror Movies for Life, and welcome to this 1983 horror movie review as we kick off the month of August here, the second month of our 1983 horror movies. Um, so the movie we're going to take a look at today, I do have the physical media for. I have it on Blu-ray, and it's actually one of my favorite John Carpenter movies, probably my third favorite John Carpenter movie, if I'm honest. And that movie is Christine from 1983. So there's the front, there's the back. It does have some nice special features, including like the making of it, interviews with the cast and Carpenter himself, special effects guys, things like that. So, but yeah, let's talk about Christine from 1983. It's hard to believe I've never reviewed this movie on my channel yet until now, but um as I said, it's probably my third favorite Carpenter movie after Halloween and The Thing. Um, it's probably right there with The Fog, although I think I like this one a little bit better than The Fog. I haven't seen all of Carpenter's movies, of course, but as far as the big ones go. So anyway, Christine, titled on screen as John Carpenter's Christine, is a 1983 American supernatural horror film co-scored and directed by John Carpenter and adapted from Stephen King's 1983 novel, which I happen to have too. I started reading it last year, but due to unforeseen circumstances, I never got through it. I'd probably just start over with it here at some point, but I definitely am interested in reading it all the way through. The film stars Keith Gordon as Arnie Cunningham, a bullied teenager who buys a sentient 1958 Plymouth Fury named Christine that exhibits a toxic personality and becomes a bad influence on him. So in 1957, on an automobile production line in Detroit, a newly built red 1958 Plymouth Fury slams its hood shut by itself onto a worker's hand, while another worker is found dead inside the car after dropping cigar ash on its seats. In 1978, Rockbridge, California, nerdy high school senior Arnie Cunningham is bullied on the first day of school by classmate Buddy Repperton and his gang. Arnie's only friend, Dennis Gilder, intervenes and intervenes with help from a teacher who sends Buddy and his gang to the principal's office. Buddy is expelled for possession of a switchblade. After school, Arnie and Dennis see the same 1958 Fury, now in a dilapidated state, for sale at the home of George LeBay, the brother of the recently deceased original owner, who tells them the car's name is Christine. In spite of Dennis's objections, Arnie purchases the car. Since Arnie's strict parents refuse to let him keep the car in their driveway, he begins to restore Christine at a local garage owned by the gruff Will Darnell, who offers Arnie a part-time job and access to parts he needs to repair Christine. Soon, Arnie develops a rebellious, arrogant personality, worrying his parents and Dennis. So that's to set up the premise, the beginning of Christine from 1983. As far as the cast goes, we have Keith Gordon as Arnie Cunningham, John Stockwell as Dennis Gilder, Alexandra Paul as Lee Cabot, Robert Prosky as Will Darnell, Harry Dean Stanton as Detective Junkins, Christine Belford as Regina Cunningham, and Roberts Blossom as George LeBay. So that's to set up the premise and the cast for the 1983 supernatural horror movie Christine. It's always been funny. This movie works so much better than it has a right to. Like when you look at it and you read about the premise, you think, well, that's ridiculous, a killer car. But Carpenter makes it work, man. He really does. And this is a movie that I've grown up with for quite a few years. I probably watched it for the first time like in the late 80s, I would say, when I was about 10 or 12, somewhere around there. And then I went a lot of years without seeing it, and then I watched it probably around 2000. And it's just a movie that I've always liked, that I've always been entertained and engaged by. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into Christine and my review of it, starting with the things that I really like about the movie. And I'm just really invested and engaged, not only in the story every time I watch it, but especially the characters. And I think Carpenter's genius of this movie is making the characters, the human characters, really more of the story, where Christine is definitely a big part of the movie, but it's more of a conduit the evil, if you will. But it's the human characters that we really come to know in the first part of this movie and genuinely come to care about what happens to them. And they're all likable. They're all sort of relatable in a lot of ways. And I think that's just the genius of this movie. I think if it was just about a killer car that was running people over at random, then it is ridiculous and it doesn't work on some level. But because Carpenter did a good enough job, and again, it's from Stephen King's book. I get that. But just the way that the Carpenter made the movie and directed it really brings these characters to light, and I think it really makes the movie a step above what it would otherwise be. Of course, you got to talk about Keith Gordon here. Keith Gordon gives an amazing performance as Arnie, with the transformation that he goes from being like your typical high school nerd, even the voice, and then to the sort of evil, rebellious, arrogant personality, as it said in the premise, young man. And it's just seamless. He does such a good job. I mean, you can't even tell he's acting. It does feel like something took him over, like that. The nerdy guy that you see at the beginning of the movie is completely gone and out of his body. And yeah, Keith Gordon is definitely the star of this movie. Very powerful performance. One of the best, I think, in 80s horror for sure. Of course, Keith Gordon's been in other movies. Jaws 2 comes to mind, although he was one of the sailors there, one of the townspeople, one of the teenagers. He had a much smaller role in that movie. And he's been in some other things too, but this is definitely his creme de la creme, if you will. And so, yeah, definitely a great performance. The way Carpenter is able to take this ridiculous premise of an evil car and make it work better than it should, I think is thanks to his directing, thanks to the score, the camera work, and just the overall character development, like I talked about earlier. We care about them, and so a lot of credit goes to Carpenter for this movie. I think he took most of the source material, not all of it. We'll get to that later. And he made a movie out of it, and even Stephen King himself said that the movie's the movie was kind of boring because the idea of Christine's it's not your typical horror movie with a lot of like action and violence and things like that, although they added into the movie here. But it's really more about this kid, Arnie, is taken over by the evil in this car. And yeah, I think this is one of John Carpenter's best jobs as far as directing. I really do. You got to talk about the special effects, from the gas station explosion and everything that goes into that, to Christine continually rebuilding herself at different points throughout the movie. Just excellent. They talked about that in the behind the scenes made documentary that's on that's on the Blu-ray here. It's entitled Fast and Furious. I forget exactly what the nuts and bolts of it were, but basically they did something in the reverse. Like they started to crush the car. Something pulled it, instead of pulling it apart, it pulled it together. So I don't remember. But it's just great. The effects are great here. That definitely stands out. Really love the ending confrontation with Arnie and Christine versus Dennis and Lee, basically. So like his really close friends and girlfriend, in the case of Lee, to now being their enemies. Him and Christine on one side, and Lee and Dennis on the other, and they're bound and determined to destroy this car. And man, it's a confrontation done right. It really does a great job of bringing this story to a big crescendo. And every time I watch the movie, I'm into it, even though I know what happens, even though I've seen it before. It's so well directed and so well shot, so emotional in a lot of ways, having to do with characters. Just fantastic. I also liked the very last shot of the movie. What some people might say is kind of cheesy to make a sequel, but the fact they never made a sequel, I don't think it's cheesy for that reason. Where Christine is basically, well, I don't want to give too much away, although the movie's been out for almost 45 years. But basically, Christine, you see a slight movement of Christine after it's been fairly well destroyed, just to make you think that she's not dead yet. So not maybe temporarily, but not the long term. So I think that's good. I think the score is very effective in this movie. I think it's an iconic score for Carpenter, and it really adds to the atmosphere that's at play throughout this movie here. I think overall the movie just has a lot of iconic shots. I mean, of course, you could talk about uh, the scene at the drive-in where Lee, his girlfriend, starts choking on a burger in the car while he's fixing the wiper, and just the light that comes from that. Of course, Christine starts playing the music. And speaking of the music, not only do I love the score in the movie, but I like the music. The old like 50s music, which of course makes sense that Christine would be playing that because that's the Cars from 57. A lot of good songs in that regard as well. Um, I'm not going to get into all of them right now, but if you're thinking of rock and roll from like the 50s, you'll recognize them. So that also adds to the entertainment value of the movie. But that scene with Lee choking on that burger and just the light and everything and the claustrophobic feel, Arnie not being able to get to her. Of course, there's the scene of the gas station explosion and Christine coming out of there and driving towards Buddy Repperton, and the car is completely on fire, and it's a great shot. I mean, if there was a poster I could get, that would definitely be the one from this movie. And then I also really like the shot at the end when the big confrontation, and after the car's sort of been wrecked a couple times, then um it repairs itself, it backs into the corner, it repairs itself, and then you get this shot of Arnie who's just completely like sweating, and he's got like black under his eyes. He looks evil, man, and he's driving the car at this point. We never really know earlier in the movie, which is another great thing that Carpenter did. We never really know if he's always been driving the car, like when people have been killed by it, or if it's just been the car. And I think it's mostly been the car, but certainly Arnie is in on it. But they do a good job of not revealing that until the end here, when Arnie is like I said, that frame of him in the car where he's just got the most evil, maniacal look on his face, like he's either going to kill these people, these old friends of his, or he's going to die himself. And that's exactly what ends up happening. And then we find out that the car can still go on even without a driver, of course. But the movie just has those iconic shots. I think the dialogue, especially by Will Darnell, played by Robert Prosky, he's got a lot of great lines. Um, I think it's a well-written movie, and of course, again, it's from the source material by Stephen King, which makes sense. But I can quote the movie quite a bit. I think it has some great lines. Um, don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me, punk. Don't get smart. I just love Will Darnell. He's such an asshole in but it's just some great lines there. So yeah, I think overall the movie really holds up well, and it was exceptionally well directed by Carpenter. So those are my pros for Christine. As far as cons go, these are kind of nitpicks, but I have to say, as somebody who's a fan of Harry Dean Stanton as an actor, I kind of wanted more from his detective character. I felt he was underutilized. He doesn't really show up to the movie until people start dying, of course, which is probably more than halfway through the movie. I would have liked to have seen more of him in the movie, given him more to do. I think that would have maybe even add a little bit more to the movie just because of how good of an actor he was during that time. I will mention, too, if you're not familiar with the movie, but you read the book, the movie does change a bit of the origin of Christine's evil, as far as how Christine becomes evil. Apparently in the book, which I haven't read this part yet, LeBay, the person that Arnie buys the car from, actually like transforms, not the right word, but like supernaturally puts the evil, like has the car possess Arnie. But in the movie, the car is evil from the start. That's why the movie opens with it being created on the assembly line. So a little bit different there. If you're a big fan of the book and you haven't seen the movie yet, that's just something to take note of, that there is a change there. I think that's the biggest change they make from the book. I don't think there's anything else too glaring. But that might just be something that some people don't like, those that really love the book. Um, and I will say the movie's not bloody or gory. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't really think it needs to be, but just in case, some of Carpenter's movies are. Um, You're not going to see a lot of gore. In fact, I don't think you see hardly any blood or gore in this movie. It's more psychological. It's more what you don't see kind of a thing. And but yeah, I don't know. It's just, and I guess the other warning I would say is it is kind of that one of those slow burns where you don't really get a lot of action until like halfway through the movie. But it really doesn't matter because Carpenter does such a good job of giving us these characters and developing them through great writing and great directing and great acting that I'm engaged from beginning to end. It doesn't need to be an action packed, over the top, bloody, gory movie for me. But it's just something I want to throw out there for the gore hounds. This probably isn't going to satisfy your gory heart. So anyway, with all that being said, in case you can't tell, I really like this movie. I always have. I'm going to give Christine a 9 out of 10. I think it's damn near a perfect movie. 9 out of 10 for Christine from 1983 by John Carpenter. Go ahead and comment down below your guys' thoughts on Christine if you've seen it. If you've read the book, give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Please like this video, hit the little notification bell, and subscribe to my channel in case you haven't already. It would really help me out for the future content and my channel going forward. But with all that being said, as I said, this is probably my third favorite Carpenter movie after The Thing and Halloween. So yeah, anyway, with that being said, I definitely recommend it. If you haven't watched this movie yet, what have you been doing? Don't let the premise scare you off. I mean, this isn't just about a dumb car. There's a lot more to this movie. It's a lot deeper than what it might appear. So anyway, with that being said, thank you for watching. We've got a lot of 1983 horror movies throughout the rest of August and September to go through, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay scared. Bye.